It's your boy NB, man, your favorite rapper, singer, songwriter, and actor. And I'm back again with another episode of Chat with NB. And I got a very controversial guest that does not mind speaking his opinion. What your opinion is, nigga? Oh, say what the fuck I want to say. I get it. I understand it. And he's actually my business partner. And I think we'll probably talk about a lot of things. But today is going to be a teaching moment for a lot of people. And it's going to be one of those things to the point to where y'all can realize who this guy really is. You know what I'm saying? The man behind the post. The man behind the text. He does not bite his tongue. He says how he feels and he means what he says. And we going to do it, man, today with the Chat with NB, man. So we going to wait a little bit. As y'all will see, I'm in my office. We gonna see if you gonna come in and tune in to the Chat with NB. But in the meantime, like I was saying, you see the NBDG. You see it. You see the smoke. I got all the smoke for Nike. I got all the smoke for Jordans. Nigga, I got my own shoe. Ain't had to be no basketball player. I ain't had to shoot no goddamn jump shot. Patented leather and suede. Nigga, exotic luxury shoe. That's how we playing out here in these streets. I walked in that bitch, I stepped in that motherfucker club. The first thing, you know how people do, man. The first thing they do, they look down at your feet. What them is? Niggas and girls, like, what them is? They mash it. The most, exuberating, fantastic, and what all the big word that T.I. used, that shit had hit my body for me to say, "Eat my shoes." You see the shirt? Man, I sold about 3 damn shoes last night stepping out. Huh? Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Been a boss for a long time, but now I'm bossing up. So we waiting on my boy to come in. You know what I'm saying? So we can do the Chat with NB. He has a different perspective. Definitely, but he's a businessman. He's very savvy and he has goals, but he will speak his mind. What happened to real people speaking their mind? I'm gonna take a drink to that. What happened to real people having thoughts and opinions without repercussions? I'm gonna sip that. This guy has an unfiltered mentality, and I think that makes him who he is. You feel me? Unfiltered mentality makes people who they are. All right, let me try to get him back in this thing. Boom, I saw him an invite. Yeah, here we go, y'all.
Here we go.
The controversial bald
You funny.
Mike, aka Leri.
You funny.
How you feeling, bro?
Same old. Nothing new. Just hustling as usual.
Facts. I was just, warming people up and just giving them a breakdown a little bit about your controversial ass in your Facebook post, but we'll get into that eventually. But I do want to welcome you to Chat with NB.
Thank you.
And
very
I
much.
do want your story to be told because you have a story to tell. But as we get to the story, we'll go to some funny stuff. We'll go to some real. I want the world to know who Lowry is, and at the end of the day, my Lowry. What the show is? What the movie?
Well, is after Bad Boys, and what happened was I had some friends used to call me that, and because back then, I used to do a whole bunch of things. I used to DJ, while I was going to school and all that, so hustling all over the place, and because of my normal name, which is Larry, they keep calling me Mike Larry. So I said, all right, we'll roll with it.
All right, so going off of that, I want everybody to understand how you started up. Where do you start from? I'm talking about the breakdown of who you are until we get to the meat and potatoes. You still got to eat that rice. You still got to eat that, eat that vegetables until we get to the meat. So talk to me.
All right, so growing up, I grew up in Trinidad, right? Came to the U.S. in 1995, December. So it was cold as hell. You know, that shit slap you real hard, right? And when that came, when the coldness hit me, I was like, shit, never felt coldness like that before. Right? So then came to this country, you know, hustled everywhere, giving out flyers, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You know, you learn some stuff along the way. And eventually I went to high school, went to college, and that's where I started the DJing thing mostly.
So you started really, when you came to the US, you started DJing. I want that to be very targeted.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And plus I was giving out flyers and all kinds of crazy stuff. But after all of that, you know, I realized little by little, I had two strikes against me. One, color of my skin. The other one was the fact that I came from a different country, right? So I had to work around that. And that's one of the things that colored people, we have to work around on a constant basis, you know, because there's too many variables that prevent us from doing what we want to do. Now, I'm not saying we should blame everything on the system, right? But we have to find ways to go.
I think that you do blame it on the system, but that's another conversation we're going to have.
We do to an extent, right? But we can't let it get to that point, right? You know, I've always been, you know, every employer I went to, everybody was like, you know, you work really well and everything. So in this case, specifically, what we're going to be talking about, you have the people who say, you know, pretty much nothing. They look at you like you're nothing. Whether you do good or you do bad, you know, I spend money to get the education I needed, and I go to the job, and then they look at me like, oh, well, you know, whatever. You know, so
I can feel your frustration based off the fact of your posts. But what we're gonna do is start to do a timeline of you coming up and what made you who you are to make these decisions to say what you say and feel what you feel.
Well, the experience is pretty much the experience. Once you start experiencing what changes your life, and in this case is racism, right? Then you start looking at life in a different way. You start thinking, well, wait a minute, why are they looking at me like that? What did I do to them? It has nothing to do with what you did to them, but it's how you look. But what I gather is that it's mostly jealousy and, you know, dislike for the fact that we're resilient people, you know, and most times us as colored people, we don't know that we're resilient, right? I'll give you an example. I go to a relative in Brooklyn, and when I go to the relative, she's very nice relative, man. You know, I can't say nothing bad about her, and she's always happy, right? But she lived behind, you know, below the poverty lines. So despite what, she's laughing and she's happy, you know, and I admire that with most people who live below the poverty lines, because when we talk about, oh, the stock market is going down, and, you know, you see all them rich people who are happen to be mostly white people, they jumping off buildings. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. You know, I lost money. You know, we don't lose money. We already never had any. We didn't have any.
Basically what you're saying, you can't lose what you never had.
Correct. You know, and you see people, you know, hanging out on the streets because, you know, they don't have nothing to do. But at the same time, those are the ones who, if they push themselves a little harder, they'll get the bag too.
Let me ask you a question. So when you got into the States, you know, your perception of the States was different when you got here?
Yeah, definitely.
And I hear you talk about a few things that kind of change your perception, but I want you to go into details of when you got here. What perception, because, you know, we got TV, we got, you know, all entertainment, the perception could be different, of course, to the point to where when you get here, oh, this ain't what I seen. Explain it to the people.
Well, As far as the difference from where I came from to here, just at the minute you step into the airport, it's like it's a whole different world. Forget the weather factor, right? New York alone is what they call the melting pot, and that's because there's so many different people, so many different cultures and groups, and with different opinions and different beliefs. It's like a bit of a culture shock, right?
So did it take you up? It shook you up a little bit, like, oh.
It did. But being that I was a kid, it didn't really bother me as much as I thought it would, because we were still kids, so we had to pretty much figure out how to work our way through it. Now, like, say for example, your parents would tell you, this old school parents, don't talk to nobody, don't look at nobody in the eyes,
I'm looking at, yeah.
Right, and you're like,
that's
why?
even in the South, bro. I mean,
really?
it got more prevalent up in the cities. Don't look at the eyes and stuff like that.
But I mean, it was partly true because, like, I'll go to the, on the train, and we just looking around the train because we're new to this country. We're like, oh yeah, this is a train, right?
And I'm gonna tell you when I got, and not to cut you off, I'm gonna tell you when I got to New York and I met you. We'll get into all that.
Right.
I was doing that, but they told you don't do that because people are robbers and stuff. But they see that when you look at the bill, they know you not from here. You pray. You pray.
Correct. So all of that was just different, and just as simple as it is, the sense of humor is different, right? If you talk to somebody from the Caribbean, their sense of humor is completely, different. What you may laugh at, they may not laugh at, and vice versa.
Right.
So,
okay. Gotcha.
Very different in cultures, and I go on the train, dude, and you look at somebody, what the you're looking at? He's like, oh, nothing. I'm a little kid. I don't know what to expect.
Just observing your atmosphere because this is the time that you just want to take it all in, right?
Right.
A lot of times when people come from another culture to another culture, you actually just want to absorb everything that you've seen on
Correct.
TV. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah, it's a learning experience because you really don't know what's going to happen next. You don't even know how to navigate yourself on public transportation. Nothing. They, like I tell you, my parents used to tell me all these different things. Don't do this, don't do that. So my brother and I and my sister, we went against everything that they said.
You went against the system.
We went against everything they told us, and sure enough, I think we were able to open up our minds a little bit more and see the difference.
So,
and
let me ask you a question. Did the black in your country change when you got to the States? You're black.
No, actually, in Trinidad, it's a little different. So everybody's black, right?
Right. That's why I asked that question.
But you have the Indian people, and then you have the African people, right? And in Trinidad, mostly the Indian people look at themselves like they're white. And that's just fact, because I'll tell you some stuff.
Culture, y'all listening to right now, chat with NB. This is culture he talking about.
Right, big difference. And because they look at themselves like the whites, the black people are just black people, right? So we never really looked into it as kids. I never looked at it as kids. To me, everybody was a person, right? I didn't care what color you was.
That's dope. Shout out to your parents.
Well, I had that conversation with my parents at some point, and I told her, I said, especially it was here, and I told her, I said, my mother especially, because my father didn't really care about all that stuff. What's the difference? In this country especially, it doesn't matter whether your hair is straight, it's curly, it's wavy, it doesn't matter. All they see is the color of your skin, right? And then you speak slightly different, they know you're not from this country. So instantly, you're like, right. Not knowing your abilities, right? So as far as like my parents, my mother especially, when I had that conversation with her, I told her, I said, just so you know, I've been pulled over a number of times by police for nothing. I've even had a situation where I went into Far Rock, and one side they were doing construction, and the other side they had it open. But in order to get back to the other side, you have to make a U-turn at some point. So I make a U-turn, but I noticed this police. He was further down on the turn, but I pulled aside. I said, something tells me, be careful with this guy. My mind just told me, be careful with him. So I pulled aside. I didn't pass.
At what age were you at this position? You know what I mean? What?
I was about 22 at the time.
Okay.
And while I'm sitting there, he lets about 4 or 5 people pass by. They did the same thing. They did the same U-turn because of the construction. I took off now, and I get past him. He pulls me. When he pulls me, he says, you know, you made an illegal U-turn. I said, yeah. So did the other people that you did not pull over. So at the time, my wife, we were going out at the time, and she said, you know, she doesn't understand why he pulled us over. I said, I know. He let everybody else go, but he didn't let me go. He was targeting me altogether. Because firstly, I'm driving an Infiniti, and young kid driving an Infiniti, okay, he must be selling drugs, right? All of a sudden, right?
Of course, Infiniti,
So,
Lexus, and all that was the dope ride.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So he gave me a ticket, but I yelled at him and I cursed him out, to be honest with you. And the reason why I did it is because when they talk about people of color, we're angry. Yeah, we are angry. You know why? Because we're putting up with this shit every single day. It's not like, you know, tomorrow I'll wake up and it'll be a great day. No, it's not. Don't count on it, because anything can happen, right? You could be walking on the block, somebody run past you, and all of a sudden the police come by and see you and say, oh, well, you're the one that robbed the bank. No, I didn't. I was just going, you know, from school. That's it. You know, it doesn't matter. As long as you have that dark skin, they look at you as a target, right? They were taught to think that way.
So with that being said, as a young, you're going up to an adult. You feel the repercussions of coming here.
Right.
Even though in your mind you was like, it's supposed to be the land of free. And a home of the free.
Right. I thought
reality check.
Right. I thought we came here, you know, to a better country, to have more opportunity and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, we do have more opportunity, but we have to work real hard to get that opportunity. Because back where I'm from, the opportunities are a lot easier to get. Right. But here, it's so much.
Say that. I'm gonna hold you with that. So I know you came here at a young age, but why not go back if you don't like what's going on now? I'm just doing the timeline.
Because the opportunity is still here. The opportunity is here. And not only that, when you come here,
over there,
the opportunity is not really there.
It's not. It's not really there. Okay.
No, it's not. It's not. And that's why we stay here. Not only that, when you come here as a young kid and you growing up, I came here at the age of 13. So when you're growing up, you know, this becomes home. Wherever you grow up, that's where it becomes home. So I can't say, you know what, I'm gonna go back. It's useless. You know what I mean? It's useless. So I can't do that. You know, it'll just be a whole waste of time because I have nothing over there no more. You know, but as I you know, went through some of those things with the police and all of that, I even told my lawyer at one point, because people used to look at me like, you have a lawyer? What age you have your lawyer? I had my lawyer at the age of 21.
And I'm gonna tell y'all, for everybody that's gonna be watching on Facebook, YouTube, etc., keep your lawyer on deck. Why? Because you don't never know, you don't get on some bullshit.
Right. It's important to have representation in this country. And the reason is, if anything happens, you have to have somebody to call. You can't just call your mom or your dad and say, hey, they put me in jail. No. You gotta make the right call. The lawyer will take care of your parents. They'll call your parents or whatever and tell them whatever needs to be told. But in the meantime, you know, you have to have somebody who you could tell them exactly what happened, and they will get working legally, because remember, everything is timing on this, right? If you don't get that together, you'll be in there a lot longer than you expected, right? Because this is what they do. The police builds up a case against you, and they leave you in there. That's their goal. Because why? I'll give you examples. We heard years ago, Saks Fifth Avenue holds investments with the jail system, with, you know, so they're just looking to make money. And now the truth is coming out that so many innocent people went to jail. Why? Just because they were black. They were told, the police were told to target black communities, right? These are things we've been hearing for a long time. We know it. We know it. And now they're fighting to get people out.
All right, so look, so as a young person, 21 getting pulled over in the States, this is what created your mindset, or you already had that?
No, that creates your mindset. That opens you up to see, all right, this is what's going on. And when it happens over and over, then you get to realize, oh, wait, this is a whole different ball game, right? So as I get older now, I don't drive fancy cars. I drive basic cars. You know why? I don't need no attention, right? Because anything you give them a reason to dislike, they'll pull you over.
Well, right? I'm going to ask you a question. Why not? I mean, there's nothing wrong with regular cars. But why not, if you are being who you are mentally and have things that you got going on, we'll get to that in a minute. But why dumb yourself down because you don't want to get pulled over? Why not go get the nice ride? But
I'll tell you why. Because as time went on, I've learned also that you don't need to show anybody what you have. That's one. Two, all I need is a vehicle to get me and my family from point A to point B safely.
I'm talking about a personal decision. Yeah. Why? Yeah. If your personal decision is to say, I want that Mercedes, why would you say, nah, I ain't gonna get that Mercedes if you ain't doing that wrong?
Simple. Because personally, cars are liabilities too. And when you get the high-end cars, they cost more money to maintain. The maintenance alone. Now, a lot of people have the wrong perception about cars. They say, okay, well, if they pay more money, it's more reliable. That's not true. It's the other way around with cars, right? So they're liabilities. So after I learned all that, I realized, you know what? There's nothing in this world would tell me, go get me a nice expensive car, because that means I'm paying out my tail just to maintain, and even to put gas. Even to put gas is expensive.
So in your words, it's really not getting pulled over by the cops. It's just a lifestyle when you buy those cars.
Well, it's so many different variables. It's so many different variables.
Both.
Right. It's a number of variables. You know, I don't want to get pulled over. One, you don't want to have the liability in a car, right? But when it comes to the police pulling you over, they look at your age too. Because I remember, you know, they pull me over so many times. In 2 months, I get pulled over, you know, 3, 4, 5 times, you know. And when I told my lawyer, he said, that sounds like harassment. And then they would use the tint on the glass to justify it. But here's the thing about the tint, right? The rule was back then, it was 70% visibility on the, no, I'm sorry, not 70. It was 30% or 35% visibility on the front, 20% visibility on the back. That's what I did. So I tried to stay within the law. They changed the law and didn't tell nobody. And when they didn't tell anybody, then all of a sudden, the police pulled me over and telling me, oh, the law's changed. Now it's 70%, right? Well, that's entrapment, because now you're telling me, okay, it's 70, but it should have been, originally 30 to 20. Because why? Because we get some hot summers, right? Summertime, it gets so hot inside the car, it's boiling. So why can't I put the tints on? You know? So when I found out, I went to the lawyer, and that's when he told me. He said, this is harassment. He said, one more ticket, we're taking this to court. No problem. Luckily, that's when that final conversation I had with him was when I went to the job, which we're going to talk about soon, right? Because that went even further with the racism. You know, after dealing with the police here, then I go there, and there's more and more racism. And the sad part is what they do is, when they talk about the systemic racism, this is part of the system that I'm going to tell you. And when it comes to the government, they're full of shit, right? They all full of shit. All your politicians, all full of shit.
How you feel?
They're full of shit. They're all full of shit. From politicians to agencies, as long as it's governmental stuff, they're all full of shit. They fulfill a quota just to say, yeah, we fulfill the quota. But after that, everybody else could kick rocks, pretty much. Right?
You feel that way based off of what you experienced at that point?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I could tell you right now, I don't even care for politicians. Right? I don't look, Look, I could tell you, a lot of people said, okay, well, Trump was good. Next one say Biden was good. Maybe Hillary was good. And at the end of the day, when they go into office, everything they said goes where? Into thin air, because they never cared in the first place. They only talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. They only do it for their people, right? And even still, the worst part was every time they get elected and they go into office, they say, well, we represent the people. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, you don't represent those people.
All right, so you experienced that, boom, jumped off the porch in your 20s.
Right.
Now you're going into your 30s.
Right.
I want to talk about some of the things that you've seen. You already expressed a lot of your discomfort with the United States and the political powers. What kind of got you in transition to your gifts and your talent?
Well, it changes, your talent, or whatever, you like to do or whatever, because you start realizing, wait, this thing works against you, right? Everything that you set out to do works against you. And I'll give you the insight as to what it is specifically I'm talking about. So I went to school for aircraft maintenance, and then I decided after 9/11, which that was a bad situation altogether, I noticed jobs were not as in abundant in the airline. So I said, you know what? I'm going to jump into air traffic control instead, which is run by the FAA, right? Which is, as we know, a government agency. So I said, okay, I'll get into there. I go into the training and everything, spend extra money for that. Did the training. I was an A student. I never had any problems. I could have done so much. I could read my weather strips. I could, interpret the rules, and when I was done with college, I went to work for Monroe College, which I could tell you was really a good college, right? I stayed there for about 1 year, and that was in 2006 to 2007. And then in 2007, I was called for the air traffic control position. Now, if I can remember correctly, I think the cutoff date is age 31. So I was below age 31, so I was called. Because they have limits as to what age you should be when you enter air traffic control, because it's a stressful job, right? Most people don't notice when you enter a job like this, you don't even get life insurance because it's so stressful. It causes you heart attacks and all kinds of crazy stuff. So they don't want the liability, right? So I go to the air traffic control in 2007, and as usual, I'm doing A stuff, in the training and everything. I was in Oklahoma, and there was supposed to be some money that you get for training, which is the pay. It was $8.23 an hour at the time, which was really low. And you're supposed to get like $110 per diem, which covers expenses, living expenses, room, food, transportation, stuff like that. I didn't even get the transportation and all that. I just walked everywhere, I even remember when I went to the facility where I was staying, I asked the woman and said, at the desk, I said, where can I go to the grocery store or whatever? She said, well, Walmart is 2 blocks that way. And the supermarket, no, sorry, Walmart is 3 blocks that way. And the supermarket is 2 blocks that way. I said, well, which is shorter? And I said, okay, 2 blocks. I just didn't know 2 blocks was like a million miles. In Oklahoma, a block is different.
No disrespect to Trinidad, but here, I don't even think they got Uber there. So
Nah, they didn't have no Uber. You was walking or you taking a bus or something. It's different. But Uber doesn't exist over there like that. But in Oklahoma back then, they didn't have an Uber. You know what I mean? So Uber didn't even exist. So I go to the supermarket. I walk maybe like 1.5 miles, 2 miles, each way, and I get my stuff. And I didn't even get the transportation. A friend of mine used to come and pick me up from the facility because it's along the way to the training location. So we'll go there. We'll do classes. I had, like I said, all A's. Never had a problem in the class. Nothing like that. But then I realized I'm seeing my pay coming in, but I'm not seeing the 110 that's supposed to come in also. So I said, what's going on here? So then I bumped into a friend of mine and we went to school together. And then he said, you know, if you need anything, call me. So I called him and I asked him about what's going on with the pay. So he explained to me that when I went in, there was a contract between the union and the FAA, which was not really supposed to happen. Apparently, they didn't negotiate within a timely manner. So the FAA had the right to impose whatever they want, right? That's what they did. So they cut out, your pay went down by like 30 to 33%. Your per diem was gone. So all they're paying you now is $8.23. I said, okay. So I had to make my mind up. I couldn't afford to be there because so far I was spending all my money. And all the money I saved, I had to spend it to pay for, you know, staying there, for transportation, for everything. So when that happened, I said, you know what? I had to make a choice. Am I going to stay or am I not? So I spoke to, you know, my wife at the time, and I told her, I said, I don't know how I could do this because it's taking way too much money. And they're not giving you back that money. So she said, well, whatever decision you make, I stand by it. We'll work on it, right? I said, okay, cool. So I made a decision. I can't stay here. So, you know, after the few weeks of being in training, I go and I tell the instructor, I said, I can't stay here because the per diem is not coming through, and it's taking a toll on me financially. And once I go to, because I was actually supposed to be in Connecticut in I forgot the name of the airport, but it was one of the main airports there, the international airport they have. So even though I already had the location and everything, and I told him, he said, okay, you need to go talk to the director. Now remember, all white people run this facility. I go to the director and I told him what the problem was. He looks at me, he smiles, he said, okay, you just type a little thing up on the computer like this. He said, just sign this resignation letter and you could always reapply and come back. Okay, so I read it. Remember this piece. When I read it, it said, I regret to inform you I'll be resigning the position of an air traffic controller. End of story, right? That's all it said. So I left a few days after. They sent, you know, I booked the ticket. I came right back. When I came back to New York now, a little while after, I bumped into somebody, which I can't reveal his name. I explained to him what happened. When I did, he said, okay, let's set up a meeting. Let's meet at so-and-so location, and we'll talk a little bit. So, we talked. He told me, what he does for the FAA, and said, okay, no problem. He said, but what happened when you went to air traffic control? And I explained it to him. So when I told him, he said, what did that resignation letter have? When I told him, he said, do you know what happened? I said, no. He said, they fucked you. I said, why? Why you say that? He said, because if you wrote the resignation letter, you would write, I'm resigning the position due to so and so and so, and you would put the reason why you were resigning. If you did that, the FAA would have to given you back all the money. They would have to give you back the position. But because I didn't put the reason, they don't know why I left. So they can't even assume that they will be giving me back that position. He said, this is what they do. He said, you go into the FAA, if you wear a nice ring or a nice hat, and they see it, oh, you have a nice hat. For the rest of the month, they'll give you a hard time, right? There's another guy there he introduced me to. The guy said, yeah, that happened to me. I had a nice baseball hat on, and they gave me a hard time for a whole month. They told me, they said, I will not come to work with a nice shoe. I will not come to work with a nice shirt or a fancy car, because these people, the minute they see you doing something.
Get shoes. Commercial segment. It's your boy
That's the one to have. That's the one to have. But see, that'll make them hate you even more.
NBDG shirt. Yeah.
That's it. That'll make them hate you even more because it's nice. So when he told me that, for a minute I didn't quite get it, but as time went on, it was just like a ton of bricks hit me, and I'm like, wait. So they kicked me out. And all along, after I left, I was waiting for the post to come out for the public so I could reapply. And I reapplied, and they never called me back. Now, the thing I forgot to mention, when I was leaving Oklahoma, I spoke to the union, which is NATCA, right? And I'm putting them out there because NATCA told me, I spoke to the guy on the phone, I spoke to him through emails and everything, write a letter as to what happened to you and how it makes you feel, right? And when you're done with that, we'll get you back your job. I said, all right, that sounds great. You know what happened? I wrote the letter. It was a 2-page letter, full 2-page letter. I sent it to them. They took that letter, they sent it to the politicians so they could get this stuff changed so that they could continue getting what they were getting before. Because remember, they were under a contract that cut a whole lot of pay and everything from everybody, right?
Right.
So the union was trying to fight that. So they took my letter along with everybody else's letter, and they did what they do. And eventually, 2 years later, I think it was, everything changed, right? They got back everything they had lost. Where am I? I keep calling them after that. Nobody answered the phone. The guy didn't, you know. So when I see him on Facebook, I dog him every time. And then one day he texts me, "Why are you always dogging me every time, you know, you see me on Facebook and all that?" I did the same thing he did. I didn't even answer. You know why? Because you know damn well who I am. I'm pretty sure you pulled my information. You saw who I was, right? Because you had me write that letter, and then you did nothing for me. If I knew you wasn't going to do nothing, why would I write that letter? But see, you make promises that you can't keep.
Well, I don't think that they knew that you was gonna go for, fulfill all the obligations for you to be vindicated in that situation. I don't
Now,
think they did. And you say full page, that means you were very detailed.
right, right. You know, but it is what it is. And once I got to realize, you know, this ain't no, do your job or do your thing and you'll get what you work for. No, this is do what you do, but watch your back because they'll stab you in your back. And that's the thing that bothered me most. And then when I came out, I realized also that, you know, we as colored people, we have to, you know, not just educate ourselves. And the reason why I say not just educate ourselves, we have the tendency to educate ourselves on how to work for somebody else, not how to work for ourselves, right? So we go to school, like in my case, I went to school, you know, for aircraft maintenance. I went to school for air traffic control. How does that make me anything? It makes the employer somebody. It don't make me anything, right? I just work for you. So you tell me how much money I'm worth. I don't tell you how much I'm worth. And I know I'm worth way more than that, right? So apart from the racism, but they use this as leverage to screw you over and to keep you below poverty lines, right? So when I came back, you know, it was a struggle for like the next year and a half because I had to find a job, you know, and eventually I found a good job, and that led to bigger and better things. But at the same time,
do you agree that, because a lot of people gonna view this on Facebook and YouTube or whatever, do you agree that going to college is the right thing or the wrong thing or in the between? What is your, because you went to college, what are your opinions?
I would say yes, and going to college is worth it. And for those colored people who don't know, financial aid is available. And the reason why I'm putting that out there is because we may say we go to college, like I just mentioned, right? You go to college, you get taught how to work for somebody else, right? But the one thing it does do, it teaches you how to be a critical thinker, right? It helps you to network with people, right? So networking and thinking is two very important things. I think those are more important things than the education itself, because the education itself, 95% of the stuff they teach you, you're not going to use, right? Unless you're like an engineer or something and you're doing like calculus or some nonsense like that, right? I had calculus and I was never going to be an engineer. So why am I doing it, right? I want information that could help me build myself. I don't want information that's useless to me, you know? So, but like I said, the networking and the fact that you will know how to be a critical thinker, and on top of that, you'll know how to do research, that gets you further than anything else. And that's more important, I think, when it comes to college.
All right, so look, moving on. I wanna tap back into your career.
Mm.
So basically, you're college certified.
Mm.
What got you got to do a little research? What got you into wanting to get into the music industry?
Well, remember, like I said, I used to DJ, for quite a while, and at one point I had a company open, which what year was that? That was around 2006, 2007 also. And I used to do vocals, for the R&B genre and all that. And I had a friend of mine, we went to high school together, and we were going to merge the two companies because he had one, I had my company. And we were starting to do something because, we were getting a ton of jobs all over the place, and we were doing good. We even jumped into artist management and all of that. And so when we decided to merge the two companies, my friend turned around and said, we need to put our information together then, because we're going to have to merge the companies, and then we could get a line of credit, and then we could start building from there. I said, okay, cool, sounds good. So we put our information together. Later on, I found out he used my information about 2 times, I think it was, and he tried to get a credit card on my name. So naturally, I knew who it was because they told me instantly who it was. And the minute they mentioned it, I said, see, I knew it.
Yeah, that gave you your taste of the industry. It gave you a
Yeah,
bad taste.
yeah. So I made the police report, and and despite what, I may dislike the way the police treat people and everything, but you still have to do police report because unfortunately you need documentation. So I did the documentation. I put a hold on my credit history and whatever. And then I called them. I said, listen, they told me it was you. I said, but you do that one more time and they're going to come for you, because I told them where you live. I told them your name. They know exactly, right? Some people will say, oh, you don't snitch. Well, guess what? It's my personal life you're screwing up when you do that crap. You know what I mean? So you have to pick and choose what you're going to do from what you're not going to do, right? So eventually, he didn't continue. He stopped all of that. But when that happened, it was like, damn, he just messed me up. And then you have, we were doing some contract work for another company in Manhattan, and we were contractors for some of the products that they had. And every time I called to get orders in, they would never fulfill my orders. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. So eventually I just shut it down. And when I shut it down, a little bit after that, that's how I went to air traffic control. So when I came back now, unfortunately, I had already sold my DJ equipment because I had closed the business. So when I came back to nothing. Now, had I continued there, I would have been okay. So now the reputation is gone, right? But then as time go on, when I met you years ago, I decided, you know what? I had to get back into it because, and it's not just music. I love music, but it's not just music. Is movies and sitcoms and commercials. You know what I mean? Because
So
what
we're
raised
talking about that. What branched you off into that energy, into the sitcoms, into the movies, and trying to create as a creator? What branched you off to want to do that?
What branched me off was when I realized that the music business was that shady, which is when that situation happened with me and my friend. That's when I said, you know what? I can't do music no more. I don't even care if it's DJing or not. Other than that, the other factor was coming back home, from air traffic control with no equipment, right? Then I decided, okay, maybe I should get into this. Now, right now, as it is, I need to stick to it because for one, I have kids and I need to show them an example as to how far you could reach if you try, So I can't be held back anymore, despite what people want to do, however they want to play the game, that's on them. I don't care about them and how they feel.